Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for the long-awaited, highly anticipated, long overdue, really, Frogman's Top 10 Frogs. Kicking it off at number 10, the Copper's Live Target. I want to kick off this list by saying, first of all, if your favorite frog is not on this list, it's nothing personal. I probably just haven't used it. And also, I'd say 10 to 4 on my list are pretty interchangeable depending on each given day. By the month, this list is changing, y'all. I'll say probably the top 3 are definitive. Those are my 3 go-tos. But yeah, kicking it off with number 10, you guys. Copper's Live Target. Not a whole lot of bad things I can say about this frog, you guys. It's a really nice size. It casts really well. It's got very stout hooks. A lot of good color options. I do like the size of it a lot. It is a good frog to fish on top of cheese, on top of mats. It does walk pretty well. The only thing really keeping it high up on the list is the way it walks is not my personal preference. It's kind of a, you know, an unorthodox, kind of a quiet, doesn't really chop the water very well. I would say where this frog excels is whenever you want to work your frog plopping the head in and out of the water like this, where you make the nose of the frog plane up and go back down, pop, 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 pop. I'd say that is where this frog really excels. But yeah, like I said, you can walk it, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. Very versatile frog. Really no bad things to say about it. But yeah, number 10, Copper's Live Target, you guys. And moving on to number 9, the Jacka Gavacho. What an interesting lure, you guys, really. Very different, you know? You got 2 strands coming out here on each side, and you got one long one down the middle. Right off the bat, you're giving those fish a different profile to look at. Really great popping action. It does walk very well. Upon first picking one of these up, my immediate thought was this plastic is way too stiff. But surprisingly, it compresses pretty well. And really the genius part of this bait, don't know if you can see that, is the hook design. The way that hook slants upwards is absolutely genius. I have messed around with this thing and almost got a hook in my finger. This hook, the way it tilts up like that, I have hooked the shit out of fish with this thing. Really, really stout hooks too, which is another major key in what makes a frog good, in my opinion. You have to have good, stout, reliable hooks that aren't going to bend out on you. That is very, very important to me. Also, the color options they give you, man. They give a lot of translucent, like shad pattern, you know, really good color options. I think it's focusing on my face, but really good frog, you guys. Not a whole lot of bad things I can say about this one either. Pretty much does everything perfectly, really durable, great frog. Number 9, the Gavacho. Moving on to number 8, a KVD popping perch. Man, have I caught some big bass on this frog, you guys. If we're talking about profile, same thing I mentioned with the Gavacho. Completely unique profile. Very big presentation in the water. Great walking action. Great popping action. Right where the hooks go into the body there, it is sealed off pretty well. It's another important thing. Not getting water in your frog is kind of a big deal when throwing a hollow body. Man, I'm telling you, you can work this thing. Twitch, 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 pop, 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 twitch, twitch. You can get real crazy with it, get some real crazy bites. I'd say the two biggest bites I've gotten on this are just straight popping it. Just pop, pop, pop. Just really slow popping it. I think the profile of this bait does most of the work for you, to be honest. It's even got the fins up top. Like, it's more of a shad presentation, like a very large shad, you know, sunfish, whatever presentation, and it definitely gets the right bites, you guys. And also, a poppin' frog is a tool in my arsenal. I think of it as a tool, as a louder presentation, something that's going to throw more water, you know, get that bigger bite, call those fish up in muddier water, choppier water, which is one reason you're not going to see the SPRO 60 poppin' frog on here, because I just think there's better, bigger, louder popping frogs, which is what I mainly use popping frogs for, is to really throw water, really give them a bigger presentation. And this one just has a bigger profile than a, you know, a SPRO 60 popping. But yeah, that's the KVD popping perch, you guys. Moving on to number 7, the SPRO King Daddy. SPRO King Daddy. Boy, I've had a very strong love-hate relationship with this frog over the years, but there is no denying, if you watch a lot of my older videos, these absolutely catch giant fish. These are a 90 size, so for reference, a regular SPRO frog is a 65 size. So, you know, a regular SPRO is about, let's see if I have one here. So, for comparison, I mean, look at that size difference. It is a lot wider, too. Just a massive offering that those big ones, you guys, it's hard for them to refuse. I will say, back in the day, this used to be, it almost would outfish a regular SPRO frog. It was so good on Ladybird. I would go right, I'd take one of my buddies out, you guys, and they would be throwing a regular 65, and they would hit it up against a tree. Nothing would touch it. I would go and hit my King Daddy in that exact same spot, and I would stick a 4.5, 5 pounder. I would go right behind people that were throwing a regular SPRO and throw this King Daddy, and this was getting crushed. Still to this day, my PB of 8 pounds, 9 ounces on the SPRO King Daddy, you guys. Castability, it's at the very top. This thing weighs, I don't know what it weighs, it's freaking heavy. You can skip the shit out of this thing. Man, I used to just hit it right on the edge of a tree line and make it do one really big hop up to the very back of that pocket, you know? You can do the little that kind of a skip, but I used to just one hop this thing. I'd hit it really hard against the water and that thing would boo, freaking 8 or 9 feet. It's ridiculous. Yeah, SPRO King Daddy, you guys, when it comes to catching that one really big fish, this one's up there. The amount of 6 and 7 pounders I've caught on this, on, you know, Ladybird Lake, which is a highly pressured lake. It's a pretty high number, honestly. So, SPRO King Daddy, you guys. Moving on to
number 6, the River to Sea Fat Matt Daddy.
This is an interesting one. River to Sea makes a bullywah frog, which I'm honestly not too fond of. I don't like the way it walks. Kind of the same thing with the live targets, how it's more of a methodical, like you gotta walk it smooth. The bullywah will flip over if you try to get real aggressive with it. This one is kind of a smooth walking frog too. It doesn't chop the water super well. It doesn't flip over though, which is nice. And this thing is literally, if you've ever gone to a river or a creek and you try to find the perfect stone for skipping, this is shaped like a river rock. And boy, can you skip the shit out of this thing. Because the belly is flat. It's actually designed for fishing on mats, obviously. It's called the Mat Daddy. It is a great open water frog. This thing walks very wide, very smooth. And you can skip the shit out of it. And man, does it catch the big ones, you guys. It absolutely catches some tanks. Very good hooks as well. Very good hooks. Yeah. River to Sea, Fat Mat Daddy, number 6. All right, guys, coming in at
Number 5. The snag-proof Fat Frog.
Now, this is an interesting one for me, to be honest. First impressions with this frog, I really wasn't too thrilled with it because it's called snag-proof, and this thing catches more grass than about any of the frogs on this list. With that being said, it does come through cattails really well, or bulrush, whatever you want to call it. Comes real well through that, but like hydrilla, scum, man, it catches on that stuff like crazy. But if you can find some good wooded areas, lay down trees, maybe a little bit of grass mixed in, and you can fish this almost like more of an open water frog. This thing, even though it does roll over quite a bit, like it flips, it corrects itself, but it does roll over quite a bit. It walks very well, you guys. It snaps. That's what I like in a frog. When you twitch your line, it's not this type of movement. It's not this. You know, it's not that. It's this. It's this. It's this. Twitch. Quick twitch. You know, chops that water a little bit. I need quick, twitchy movements out of my frogs to trigger those bites. And man, you get this thing walking right, and it's and boy, I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I've been throwing either a SPRO, a live target, and I'm not getting any bites. And as soon as I tie this thing on, it gets freaking crushed. So the number one reason this is as high up on the list as it is because they just get freaking crushed. And at the end of the day, that's what you want out of a frog. You want it to get freaking crushed. And the big ones crush it, man. I think my biggest one I caught on this was like 7 pounds, 10 ounces on the Blue Jay color, which is a freaking awesome color, you guys. If you fish any really clear water fisheries, that tan belly with that big blue bar that goes, it looks like a swallow. So it's not Blue Jay, it's swallow is the color. But yeah, it looks like a swallow, or you know, some kind of, the fish don't know what it is. I don't know what it is even. But I just like tan bellies, really natural looking colors like this when that water gets gin clear. So yeah, number 5, guys, snag proof fat frog. All right, this one is kind of sad for me, you guys.
Number 4, the Booyah PADCRASHER.
This one is kind of sad for me. Booyah PADCRASHER. I'm telling you, this has been my number 1 frog, maybe number 2, but it's been my number 1 frog, hands down, for over a year, you know, which is rare for me because I'm trying so many new frogs, and I find this one I like, I find that one I like. This has been my solidified, you know, hands down, not a doubt in my mind, number 1 frog for the longest time. And they must have got cheap on their hooks or something. I still had to put it on the list, you guys, but I bin the hooks out on these just about every time I use them now, and that never used to be the case. You want to talk about a frog that is responsive to your rod twitches and You can get some crazy action out of these. You can make that head slap out of the water, change direction. Still to this day, the biggest bag of bass I ever caught on a frog. So I caught, I don't know, I caught 26 pounds for my best 5. 3 of them were on a SPRO frog, but the 2 biggest ones that were 6.5 pounds I caught on a PADCRASHER. I've caught so many big fish on PADCRASHERs. Still to this day, like I don't know if it's my all-time favorite, but one of my all-time favorite fish catches was on the Guadalupe River, the very first time I ever fished this section of river. And it's probably 103 degrees out, and I'm throwing this up in the shade, and I watch a 7-pound 11-ouncer come up off the bottom and eat this thing. I watch it happen, and it's one of the coolest fish catches I've ever had. So yeah, I mean, I wish this could be higher on the list, you guys. I really wish it could, but like I said, yeah, one of the most important things a frog has to have is strong hooks. I'm throwing this on 50 to 65 pound braid with my drag locked down. I need good hooks. Booyah. Step your freaking game up, booyah. Really unfortunate. I had to keep it on the list. I almost didn't even want to put it on the top 10 because of that reason. But because it's been number 1, number 2 for so long, I had to include it in the top 10. Number 4, Booyah PADCRASHER. All right, guys, we are down to the top 3, down to the nitty gritty. This one's probably a controversial one, to be honest.
Number 3, the river to sea spitting wah.
I don't know if a lot of people love this frog, and I do have major issues with it, but the good far outweighs the bad for me with this one. The river to sea spitting wah. When I talk about drawing big strikes, really having great drawing power, a unique sound that no other frog has, a big profile in the water when it's muddy and I'm not getting them to hit a regular size SPRO frog, I'll put this thing on, man, and they will crush it. I will fish this thing, pop, pop, make it throw water. Tush, 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 tush. This thing doesn't just, when this thing's walking, man, it is literally spitting water left and right, left and right, left and right. I'm telling you, I have gotten some of the most insane blowups of my entire life on a river to sea spitting wah. The negatives of this frog, sometimes the cup mouth does tear off like this one has, and the hooks from time to time will hook into the body pretty bad sometimes even, but most of the time it doesn't affect hookups. Every now and then it will. But like I said, you guys, the good of this frog far outweighs the negative, in my opinion. Yeah, they just get crushed. They're super soft, super stout hooks, you guys. Just an amazing frog. Number 3, river to sea spitting wah. All right, guys, getting down to the top 2, baby. Top 2. Coming in at number 2 on the list,
The SPRO Bronzeye Poppin' 70.
the big boy, the SPRO Poppin' 70. This one edges out the spitting wah just barely, because you know what it doesn't do? Hook itself. You know what it doesn't do? Have a cup mouth that rips off. And you know what, you guys? On this list, this is probably the best walking frog on this list right here. I really don't even pop this frog hardly ever. Maybe the first move I do with this frog is pop it sometimes, but for the most part, you guys, I'm twist, 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 and usually pretty quick. I'm working this thing pretty damn fast. Man, last fall on Decker Lake when they lowered the water out there, this thing in that you know, sexy shad, nasty shad color, whatever you want to call it, and the killer gill, the one with the silver belly, were just freaking lights out when they lowered the water down. And they you know, late fall, they're keyed in on shad, and whoo boy, I caught some big ones, baby. Weight wise, castability, you know, it's probably second on the list behind the King Daddy. Yeah, you guys, the hookups I get on this thing are crazy too. I hook the shit out of some of those fish I catch. It's borderline abusive, honestly. These hooks are sharp, they're big, they're stout. But yeah, really where this one shines, you guys, it's just the walking ability and the hookup ratio and just everything, really. It's just a phenomenal freaking bait, and drawing those really big strikes, man, this thing really does it, you guys. Number 2, SPRO popping 70. All right, guys, if you haven't figured it out by now, my number 1 frog is
The SPRO Bronzeye 65.
Now, I will say, you're gonna get some SPRO frogs that you're gonna throw and they're gonna take on water and you're gonna be like, this thing sucks. And then you're gonna get that SPRO 65 that just refuses to stop floating. So I don't know what it is with the slight lack of consistency with these things, but I have gotten some SPRO frogs, you guys, that just flat out will not sink. It is the most insane thing I've ever seen. You know, until the threading will start to come out of the nose and the body will rip, and so many big fish have come on this frog right here. And not to mention just the freaking amount of colors they give you. It is absolutely insane. The amount of freaking options they have in their colors. And let me tell you, I have bought damn near every single one of them. And you do not need all these colors. You don't need them. But it's just fun. Man, I like seeing a bass eat a freaking pink frog. I just like it, you know? It makes me happy. And SPRO has by far the biggest color selection, you guys. You know, it's not the heaviest frog, but it certainly isn't the lightest either. You can cast these fairly easily, I would say, for the most part. I never really have too many issues casting these, even on 65-pound braid. You know, 65-pound braid is a 17 mono diameter, or 16, depending on what brand you're using. You can really get choppy with these things too, man. You can skip them really well. The hooks are not gonna dig into the body. Most of them are pretty soft. I will say there's certain colors, like these colors, that are just stiff as all get out. I've boiled this like 35 times and it's still stiff as hell. I don't buy these ones anymore. Really, the only SPROs you need are yellow belly SPROs, maybe some whites. I don't even really throw many whites. If I'm fishing clear water, you know, I'll throw some clear stuff at them. I'll throw some watermelon reds at them, you know, stuff like that. But yellow bellies and black are my personal go-tos. Whites always work. I just like throwing yellow and black more. It's more of a confidence thing for me. But I've caught a lot of big fish on white frogs. Like, don't get me wrong. But yeah, you guys. So I would say everything I'm looking for in a frog, when you get a good one of these, you know, and that goes for any of these frogs, you're gonna go through a lot of frogs that you buy and you're like, this frog sucks, that frog sucks, you know, and then you buy 3 more of them, 2 of them still suck, but you get that one good one. And that goes with all of these brands. It's like, you know, these are made in a factory. The quality control probably isn't fantastic, but when you get a good SPRO, the durability, the quality of the hooks, the hookup ratio, the way it walks, I can do this with it. I can do quick small twitches with it. I can do a little bit wide twitch. You know, I can almost kind of slosh water with it. It's got everything you want in a frog. It just does it all. It absolutely encompasses everything I want a frog to be. The only thing I will say is if they made this in a 70 size, it might be even better. It might be even better. Yeah, guys, that'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next one, stay froggy. Peace.